Okay, so today we're gonna dive into something pretty heavy.
Yeah.
As you all know, last July, the nation was shaken by that horrific attack in Southport.
Absolutely.
And we really wanted to take some time to just kind of dig into what happened, explore the facts as best we can, the motives, and the impact something like this has on everyone.
Yeah, and this is one of those stories where you almost wish you didn't have to
Right.
talk about it, but I think it's important that we do it. And I think what makes this so hard to even process
Yeah.
is just the setting. This wasn't a back alley or, kind of a stereotypical place where you think something violent might happen.
Right.
This was a dance studio
With little girls.
with families, little kids, music, playing, Taylor Swift in the background.
Yeah, it's like pure joy.
Exactly.
And then just this brutal violence.
It really is hard to fathom the level of terror that must have just swept through that room, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and reading through the sources, they talk about how this 18-year-old Axel Rudakubana, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, you gotta...
He just moved so systematically through the studio,
Systematically, that's the word for it.
attacking all these young girls.
And the ages, too. It's just
I know.
heartbreaking to even think about.
Yeah, and, it's important that we say their names, Elsie Bebe. They lost their lives that day. And then another 8 children and 2 adults were injured.
It's unimaginable.
And they were making friendship bracelets. They were, singing along to Taylor Swift, and then just that their world was shattered.
Yeah, and this calculated nature of it all is something that Justice Goose really honed in on,
Yeah, he used that phrase, settled determination.
Right, and that's not a word you hear every day in a courtroom.
No.
And it goes beyond just, a desire to harm. It speaks to premeditation, a level of planning that is just chilling.
And this is reflected in his behavior in court, too, right?
Like he refused to even appear for his sentencing.
Yeah, disruptive outbursts, even demanding a paramedic.
Yeah.
You know what's going on in his head.
And then there's that statement he made to police after he was arrested.
Oh, God.
But the children were dead.
It sends chills down your spine.
It just shows such a complete lack of remorse.
Absolutely. A deeply disturbed individual, no doubt about it.
And yet, despite all of that, despite the brutality of it all,
Yeah.
even Justice Goose saying, quote, many who have heard the evidence might describe what he did as evil who could dispute it.
Yeah, powerful words.
It wasn't classified as terrorism.
Right, and that's something that I kind of tripped over as I was reading through all of this.
Yeah, I was confused by that too.
Yeah.
I mean, given everything we know, the Al-Qaeda training manual, predicting rising.
Right, you would think.
So why didn't this meet the legal definition?
So the key here is motive.
Okay.
So despite how horrific the act was, there was no evidence of a political or religious or ideological motive.
So the judge essentially argued that calling it terrorism almost misses the point, because the true horror lies in the targeting of innocent children, the sheer scale of the harm intended.
So it was more about the act itself and the impact it had rather than trying to fit it into a very specific box.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so in the end, Rudakubana received a minimum sentence of 52 years. That encompasses 3 counts of murder, 10 of attempted murder,
Yeah.
producing ricin, and possessing that Al-Qaeda manual.
It's a heavy sentence, but one that reflects the gravity of his crimes.
Yeah, no question.
And amidst all of the, just the darkness and the horror, what really struck me was this statement from Elsie's family.
Oh, yeah.
Even in their grief, unimaginable grief, they expressed gratitude towards the emergency services.
That's amazing.
And acknowledged the support they received from, even figures like King Charles and Prime Minister Starmer.
Wow.
It's a testament to, I think, the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
And the way a community can come together in the face of tragedy.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to kind of bring us back. We've talked about the details. We've talked about the legal side of this.
Yeah.
But it's so important to remember the human element.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has left a deep wound on Southport, on the entire nation.
And it raises so many questions too, right? Like, how do we as a society prevent something like this from happening again?
Yeah.
How do we even begin to understand the darkness that leads someone to do this?
Right.
What kind of support systems need to be in place for the families, the survivors?
For everyone who's affected, really,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think maybe the most important question is, how do we hold on to hope?
Yeah.
When faced with such senseless violence, how do we continue to believe in the good in humanity?
It's a tough question.
It is. It's a really tough question, and it's one that I think all of us need to kind of sit with and wrestle with and, try to learn from this horrible tragedy and really work towards a world where something like this is unthinkable.
Yeah, where it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.